Peloton didn't become a warning because people stopped exercising. That would be too easy. It became a warning because, for one strange moment, the world made Peloton look bigger, stronger, and more inevitable than it really was. During lockdown, a luxury exercise bike suddenly looked like the future of fitness. But when the world reopened, a lot of that future started collecting dust in people's living rooms. Peloton's real problem was simple. It sold hardware like a fitness company, subscriptions like a tech company, and expectations like the pandemic would last forever. That combination made it a winner. Then, it made it vulnerable. At its peak, Peloton was not just a bike. It was a status symbol with pedals. It said, "I'm disciplined, I'm productive, I have taste. And yes, I can afford this thing in my living room." During the pandemic, when gyms were closed and people were stuck at home, that identity became incredibly powerful. A Peloton was not just exercise equipment. It was structure, community, and control at a time when life felt completely out of control. Imagine Sophie, 36, working from home in 2020. Her whole routine collapses. No commute, no gym, no spin class, no separation between work and life. So she buys a Peloton. Suddenly, her mornings have shape again. She clips in. The instructor says exactly the right thing. The leaderboard makes her feel less alone. The bike sits in the corner of her apartment like proof that she is still becoming the person she wants to be. That was Peloton's magic. It understood that fitness is not really about calories. It is about identity, emotion, and belonging. People don't just buy workouts. They buy the feeling of being the kind of person who works out. They buy the hope that future me is stronger, healthier, more organized, more in control. Peloton packaged that hope beautifully. The music, the instructors, the metrics, the community, and the little dopamine hit after a completed class. For a while, the business looked brilliant. Peloton had expensive hardware and recurring subscription revenue. Hardware got the customer in the door. Subscriptions kept charging every month. To investors, it looked like Apple, Netflix, and SoulCycle had a very expensive baby in your living room. But there was a catch. A real tech subscription scales very differently from fitness hardware. Netflix can add another subscriber without shipping a treadmill to their apartment. Spotify can stream one more song without installing a machine in someone's living room. Peloton still had to manufacture bikes, manage inventory, handle deliveries, support repairs, and convince people they had enough space, money, and motivation to keep using the product. And motivation was the fragile part. During lockdown, motivation was artificially concentrated. Gyms were closed, travel was limited, people were spending more time at home and more money on the home. Peloton benefited from all of that at once. But that was not normal consumer behavior. That was emergency behavior with a credit card. The mistake was believing the emergency was the new normal. That is where a lot of pandemic winners got into trouble. They looked at 2020 and 2021 demand and built as if it would continue in a straight line. More equipment, more hiring, more production, more expectations. But when the world reopened, people went back to gyms, offices, restaurants, and travel. Some kept using the bike, some used it less, and some turned it into a very expensive laundry chair. Peloton's product was not fake. Many people genuinely loved it. The instructors built real loyalty. The classes were engaging. The brand had emotional power. But a product can be loved and still be overvalued. A company can have passionate users and still misread the size of the market. Intensity is not the same as universality. Peloton had intense fans, but investors started treating that intensity as if it represented everyone. The person who buys a high-end exercise bike, pays a monthly subscription, has space at home, enjoys instructor-led workouts, and stays consistent long-term is a valuable customer. But that is not everyone. Sophie might be obsessed. Her sister might think it looks cool, but never buy one. Her friend might buy it and use it for 3 months. Her coworker might prefer a cheaper gym. The market was real, but it was not infinite. And once growth slowed, the business became much harder to love. Peloton had to deal with falling demand, inventory problems, leadership changes, layoffs, recalls, and a stock price that collapsed from its pandemic-era highs. The company that once looked like the face of connected fitness became a case study in overexpansion. It didn't just grow, it grew into a version of the world that did not last. By 2026, Peloton is not dead. The company has been trying to turn itself around. Under CEO Peter Stern, Peloton has focused on cost discipline, improving profitability, reducing debt, refreshing equipment, adding AI-powered coaching features, and leaning harder into subscriptions and commercial fitness. Its results have shown signs of stabilization, including improved adjusted EBITDA and a raised fiscal 2026 outlook. But there is still a warning inside the comeback. Peloton's connected fitness subscriber base has been shrinking year over year. And that matters because Peloton's most attractive story was never just selling bikes. It was selling an ecosystem. A bike sale is a transaction. A loyal subscriber is a relationship. If that relationship stops growing, Peloton has to prove it can become more than a pandemic habit. This is why Peloton's turnaround is not just about cutting costs. Cutting costs can make a company healthier, but they do not automatically bring back growth. You can slim down the business, reduce debt, improve margins, and still face a harder question. How many people actually want this product now that the world is open again? The psychology of fitness makes that question tricky. Exercise is one of those categories where aspiration is much bigger than behavior. Millions of people want to be the kind of person who works out every morning. Fewer people actually do it every morning. That gap between aspiration and behavior is where fitness companies make money and where they get fooled. A gym chain understands this. Not every member shows up. In fact, many gyms depend on people paying and not using the facility too much. Peloton is different. If someone buys a bike and stops using it, the bike becomes a visible reminder of failure. It sits there, silently judging them from the corner of the room. At some point, they may cancel the subscription just to stop paying for guilt. For Sophie, the Peloton may start as motivation. Then one missed week becomes two. Work gets busy, the bike becomes furniture. Eventually, the subscription stops feeling like self-improvement and starts feeling like a monthly charge for the person she meant to become. That is the emotional risk of subscription fitness. Peloton is not only competing with gyms, free YouTube workouts, walking outside, or cheaper fitness apps. It is competing with the customer's own inconsistency. And inconsistency is undefeated. Peloton also had a pricing problem. Premium positioning helped the brand feel special, but it limited the audience. A high-end bike plus a monthly subscription is a serious commitment. During the pandemic, that commitment felt more reasonable because people were spending more time at home and less money elsewhere. But in a higher-cost world, expensive at-home fitness becomes a harder sell. This is why recurring revenue is not magic if the subscription is tied to discretionary behavior. A phone plan is hard to cancel. Internet is hard to cancel. But a fitness subscription lives much closer to motivation, mood, and identity. It can be sticky for devoted users, but fragile for casual ones. Then there is the hardware issue. Hardware makes the brand tangible, but it also creates risk. Manufacturing, shipping, inventory, recalls, repairs, financing, and discounts. Peloton wanted to be valued like a tech platform, but part of the business still behaved like a consumer hardware company. Demand can swing. Inventory can pile up. Discounts can hurt the brand. New models cost money. Old models need support. Peloton saw a real trend and treated it like destiny. That is what bubbles often do. They take a truth and stretch it until it becomes dangerous. The truth was, people like convenient, connected fitness at home. The dangerous version was, almost everyone will want an expensive connected fitness machine, growth will keep exploding, and the company deserves a tech-style valuation forever. Peloton went from winner to warning because the story got too far ahead of the behavior. The lesson is simple. Be careful when temporary conditions make a company look permanently brilliant. During unusual moments, consumers do unusual things. They buy differently, subscribe differently, work differently, exercise differently, but when conditions change, you find out which habits were real and which were borrowed from the moment. Peloton borrowed a lot from the moment. Lockdowns, closed gyms, remote work, stock market optimism, and the emotional need for control during chaos. When those supports faded, the company had to stand on ordinary demand, and ordinary demand was smaller, slower, and less forgiving. To Peloton's credit, the current version of the company seems to understand this better. The focus now is less about world domination and more about discipline, lower costs, stronger margins, better products, fewer illusions. The question is whether Peloton can become a durable fitness business without needing the world to be trapped at home again. Can it keep loyal users engaged? Can AI coaching and new hardware make the experience feel fresh? Can it be profitable not just by cutting costs, but by making people want to stay? Back then, the question was, how big can this get? Now, the question is, how much of this was real? Peloton is a useful warning because identity, community, and convenience are powerful, but none of them erase the basics. The market has to be big enough. The costs have to make sense. Growth has to be sustainable. And the customer has to keep caring after the hype fades. Sophie may still love her Peloton, but passionate users do not prove unlimited growth. They prove the product matters deeply to a specific group of people. The bike was real. The community was real. The workouts were real, but the pandemic made the market look unreal. And when the world reopened, reality got back on the bike.